Hey there, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading, wanting to thank you for stopping by to watch this interview and also make it clear to you that this is not a paid-for promotion. I collect no compensation for the interviews I do here. These companies have been identified as opportunities for investment that could provide an above average return on our investment. This is our opportunity to get to know management, to understand the vision for the company, the strategy they plan to implement, and execute to achieve that vision for the company. So if you learn anything here today and you enjoyed the interview, please do us a favor and subscribe to the Alpha Wolf Trading YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with another CEO interview, and this is a really special one. I love this story. I actually refer to this as the Kindle killer, but I know Kaleeg probably gets a little nervous when I say that, but that is how I view it. I think there's tremendous opportunity here, and the company is called Legible, and the CEO is Kaleeg Hainsworth. And Kaleeg, first of all, I want to thank you for coming in to do the interview and tell us about you and the company. And why don't you do that? Why don't you tell me how Legible, came about and give me some of the background on your history.
I would love to. And it's a real joy to be here with you, Tim. I really respect you and respect your show. I love your interviews, and I'm really glad to be here. So thank you for the opportunity. I consider this a privilege and an amazing opportunity to really share what we are and who we are, and what we're doing with your people. And I'd be happy to share a bit about what Legible is. There's quite a background to it, and I'd love to share a bit of a background, but I don't want to get all confused because there's a lot to just share with that. So maybe, if it's all right with you, if it will work for your viewers, that maybe what I could say is just talk about what Legible is, just factually, very quickly,
Yep.
and share, let's say, 4 things I would love your viewers to remember about Legible and what makes us different, and then maybe share 1 thing about about our business model, so they understand our business model. And then share a couple brief catalysts that are coming up for us that we think will make a strong impact on us as a company, as a growing and emerging company. And then I'll share the little backstory to how I actually came to this, which involves, in order to whet your appetite, in case it's interesting, it involves an outreach center for the homeless 15 years ago, and cracking some books and sharing it with the low-income population and seeing the impact that made on them. But I'll come back to that. That's okay. For yeah. All right. So Legible.com is an online bookstore with a SaaS business model that we think unlocks new markets worth billions of dollars, and we think it will change the world. So the 4 things I would love for you to know and remember about what we're doing and to share about us. The first is that Legible has developed and released the first browser-centric platform to stream books, audio and audiobooks, to any internet-enabled device that anyone owns anywhere in the world. And that's really important because there are 4.5 billion people in the world with devices connected to the internet, and about 3.5 billion of them have no access to books whatsoever. So we, by releasing Legible, have automatically increased the market available to the digital publishing industry by billions. The second thing to remember about us is that we've made access to the 2 million books on Legible so frictionless that anyone, anywhere in the world can access any book on Legible in 3 clicks and 10 seconds. And that's important because an increasing business driver in the publishing industry is generations X, Y, and Z, who have more sophisticated demands of their platforms and content platforms than generations above them. And they demand access and easy access and streaming access as well. The third thing to know about us is that we have innovated on what books are and how they actually they're conveyed. We have developed and released a transformational type of book, which we call the living book. And this is a digital book, such as any ebook, that also has integrated video and interactivity, tests and things you can do on screen and little games in the book, as well as audio, all fully integrated within the book itself, so that it's not just that you're reading the book, but the book itself becomes a form of engrossing and delightful entertainment. And we're essentially modernizing the book reading experience. And fourth thing I'd like you to remember is we've done all of those things, those 3 things, and made it mobile first. And that's important, really important, because 4.5 billion people have mobile phones in the world, and that number increases by several hundred million every year. And those people need access to books and to reading material. And the best way they're going to get it is through the devices they already have. So those are the 4 things. The business model that we have is actually not groundbreaking. It's very simple. It's tried and true. We are an a la carte service for books, but most importantly, we're a subscription service for books and audiobooks. And we are looking forward to releasing Legible Unbound, which is our subscription service, allowing anyone, anywhere, again, on any device, to access any book through the subscription service, all 2 million of our books. And that leads me to another point as well. We have tremendous early market adoption and validation of our product through the form of the publishers that have been come to our platform in hundreds. So Legible already, even though we haven't released to the general public market fully as yet, already has 2 million books in our catalog, making us the 4th largest bookstore in the world, with access to over 900,000 audiobooks as well. So we're incredibly supported within the industry, who have worked very hard to get us their books, knowing that we're increasing their market. And that leads me to 2 simple catalysts. First, the first catalyst is that we've recently signed and released in a press release a strategic partnership with the largest transit authority in Canada and one of the largest in North America. This is Toronto's Metrolinx. They have 300,000 riders daily, 102% rebound on ridership since 2019. And not only that, but they service a city of 7 million people. And we will be the official ebook provider for the city of Toronto in the form of their transit services, where people will have access directly through QR codes on the screens, through the bus wraps, the train wraps, but also through the Wi-Fi systems as well. We're very excited about not only the revenue opportunities for the company in becoming the ebook partner for an entire city, but also the opportunity to really drive excitement around the books that we offer, as well as showcase our living books and wow people as they encounter a new way of encountering these books. But the other catalyst opportunity for us is we have signed an 8-book contract with one of the with a New York Times #1 best-selling author, T. Harv Eker, the author of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I think he sold 14 million copies of that book. So we have an exclusive contract to publish the next 8 books from of a series that he calls T. Harv Eker's Life Transformation Series. And the first book, book 1, called Don't Believe a Thought You Think, is being released as a multimedia living book with inside interviews and chats with Harv right within the book itself. Will be released later this month. And we see that as a massive publishing and catalyst event coming up for the company. We're very excited about those things. Now, I've said all that, and I promised I would go back and I would give you a little bit of background as to how all this stuff got started. Like, how is it that I ended up the CEO and building the first browser-centric reading system, and then also ending up with a company that is selling books and looking to expand around the world? Well, it all goes back to when I was caring for I used to be a cleric, a priest, and I ran an outreach center for homeless and low-income people. And I learned when I was doing that, this is going back many years now, that they didn't have access to libraries and books the way many others do. So I went and I got 100 books and I cracked them and I put them on devices, and I handed the devices out to people that were visiting this shelter. And the impact on their lives was changed my life, because I saw the impact of having access to stories and books and reading and the intellect. It dignified them. It emboldened them. It gave them access to knowledge. It gave them access to ways of being that they had never had in any other context before. So when I saw the impact of a flexible, or to put it another way, an accessible reading system, I was just inspired for the rest of my life. And I thought, okay, I have to develop a reading system that will give access to books, not just to these people, but to anybody in the world that has access to the internet. And that was the nucleus in the beginning of Legible. And it took me 10 years to build that system. It's a very hard thing to do. It's not just a simple production and development process that you could hire a bunch of people to do. You have to be an expert in books, digital books and books. You have to be an expert in how books are presented, how books are made, the global rights. All of those things have to go into the actual development of a reading system that can be hosted on any browser, on any device in the world. And I'll share one more thing. I used to think that that was like the most important thing, Tim. Like, everybody's going to be wowed that I've done this thing and started this company that has a browser-centric reading system. But the absolute truth is that nobody really cared that much, even though I knew, and people in the publishing industry knew, that this was like the future of publishing and that we did it. Nobody that we were talking to really cared that much. But what I've learned is that actually that's okay, because it's not the underlying technology that is really exciting to people, even though that's what makes it all possible. It's the opportunities that come from that, and they're endless. So to put it into perspective, and then I'll give you space for a question. So I've just launched into a whole bunch of things, but what I will say is that in a way, Legible is to the publishing industry as Netflix was to the video rental industry. The fact is that I was running around telling people how excited I was that I invented the internet. But the reality is that nobody cared about that. They cared when they could stream videos. through the internet. That's the difference. We developed and released a browser-centric reading system. Well, that's great. But the best part is that now we can stream books directly into any device, and we open up markets, we give better opportunity for books, we make multimedia books possible, we make NFT integrations possible. The list goes on and on as a result of that. And so I know that the big, people are there. You mentioned one at the beginning of the call, but they are, in our minds, our blockbuster, and we are their Netflix. There you go.
That's a very impressive way to start this whole conversation.
Thanks, Jim.
And I happen to agree with you. The first time that we spoke, and I have to say that was probably that might have been 7 months ago. Maybe even longer, right? That we first talked. And
I think so.
When I first talked with you and we started talking about all of the different possibilities, the NFTs, because at the time NFTs were kind of a big thing back then, right? They were all the talk when we met, and I could absolutely see the integration of NFTs into something like this. And we talked about the fact that this is a very author friendly platform, right? And then with the living books, to be the customization of, like, for example, and I'll just use the word that you probably don't want me to use, but the Kindle is everybody's book looks the same, right? I mean, it goes into that format and it just looks the same. It's a generic deal. And there's nothing special in my mind feeling about that. There's nothing that's special about that book. It just looks like every other book on Kindle, right?
Yeah.
Which you're not going to have that problem with what you're talking about, right? And
no, and they're easier to get. And I'll tell you a funny fact that is actually a fact. It's not just made up. A recent study was done just at the end of last year by an independent consumer firm on Kindles, and they found that 1 out of every 3 purchased Kindles are never taken out of the box.
I believe that, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah,
because I bought my mom one, and it's still in the box.
So
she's never once used it, and I it kind of irritated me because I was trying. And she told me straight out, but my mom is very different. She just said, look, I like the feel of a book in my hand.
Same here. Yeah.
So that is, that was her deal. It's like she wants to have the feel of a book in her hand.
And, I fully respect that. And I feel the same way. Like, a book is a book. And I don't think that we'd replace books. I think we add another component to them. It's like, I love the book Lord of the Rings, and I love the film Lord of the Rings, and I get value out of both of them. And and I wish Kindle all the best. They have a reading system that they can't change. They sort of cemented it in, unfortunately. So they're going to be facing an increasingly challenging market. But fundamentally, our market share, our market direction is towards younger generations. And as I said earlier, Kindle and Amazon are not there. And
what's funny about that to me is I think the younger generation, reading is not as hip as maybe it was back in our day, mainly because they have so many other options, right? You got gaming and all this virtual and AR and VR and all this stuff that's happening. Maybe there's so much potential entertainment out there that it's tough for books to compete with that, right?
There is no doubt of it. And people's reading habits online are changing, right? And I see you've got on the screen there Harv's book. Oh, awesome. Hey, you can see the moving cover as well.
Yes. And now, isn't that cool, right?
Yeah, right.
The moving cover right there, you're bringing books to life.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
That's, I guess, why you call it the living book.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And we think that like younger generations that are, first of all, they want easy access. We give that to them. They want a subscription service. We're giving that to them. They're spending money on reading material. They're just consuming it differently. They want to consume it on their phones and their transit in different areas. They want to listen to audiobooks. They're consuming that information. And actually the publishing industry is a growing industry, digital publishing. So it's not a declining industry. The revenues continue to grow, especially in audiobooks. More people want audiobooks these days than books. And we're bringing books to life like that. And you know, being able to create book covers that have these moving parts, in this case, a head opening up and things flying out. And you don't get
those are the kinds of things that differentiate. That's why I say this is the Kindle killer, because the Kindle's got all the same looking stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't have that.
No.
That grabs my attention, right? Yeah. I see the top of somebody's head popping open and the gears are working. I'm sitting here thinking that's got my attention.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it's a book. How does this work? It's right. And when you get into it, you know, you open it up. You don't know this yet, but you get it up, you open it up, and then it's like animation that happens. And one thing that we developed for this book is you're flipping the pages, or you're scrolling down through it on your phone, whichever. And all of a sudden you come across something that's called the integration moment. And that is where, you know, you're reading what Harv is saying, but then you get a moment where you can press a little button in the book that plays 90 seconds of music, so that you can write inside of the book in a little section, type in whatever you want. And we made it so that people, as soon as you turn the page, it all disappears. So it's like wild writing on water. It's like writing on water. It gets you a chance to think and get it out and interact with the book, but it's also safe for you because it doesn't record anything. So, you know, there's all kinds of cool things we're doing with it. And we're really excited about all the other books. This is just one. We have many, many more to come, and many we've already done. And people can just discover them more and more on the legible.com platform.
So is it a friendlier, I guess, profit in terms of the authors and what they get paid? Is it friendlier for them?
Yeah, it is. We made a point of it. You know, I've had before Legible, I built and ran a business that for 10 years was really the largest ebook conversion service in Canada. And I ran that for 10 years before moving and doing Legible. And we worked a lot with independent authors. And that gave me a unique perspective in the publishing industry, because I saw what authors went through, not only to write the book, but then to have to figure out how to sell it and what to do, and all the challenges that are faced then, you know. And yet the independent publishing industry is like $1 billion industry. So who's looking after them? Well, not very many people, it turns out. And worst of all, they are given revenue share of their books that is almost criminal. So if you can imagine, if you're an author and you just put a year of your life into writing a book, and then you're an independent author, so you've designed it, you've hired a company like Legible, for instance, to make it, and then you're ready to put it online. You're ready to put it up online, and you figure that out. And when you do that, you suddenly face losing 70%, up to 70% of the royalties of that book to the platform that's hosting it. And I just always felt that was egregious for all the work. So when it came to us, we worked out in our business model that we're able to offer publishers and authors a much better rate. And in other words, they take 60 and 70% of that rate, as it should be, and we take 30 and 40%. 40% for independent authors, 30% for larger publishers in general.
And I think that makes sense, right?
Thank you.
I think it's if I was a author, I would be chomping at the bit to partner up with Legible, right?
Yeah. It's a simple matter of we're going to expand their market share, give them more people who can have access to their books, and give them a better revenue share, so they're making more money on the books they're selling. And also, we're giving them a voice into how those books are sold and where they're sold.
And you're giving them a cooler platform that enables something like what we've got up on the screen.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. So we know, and we come from within the publishing industry, and we know what they need and want. And we're creating a relationship with the publishing industry in which we are fair, good actors. We're not there to kill them and undercut them. We're there to collectively prosper together in expanding a book industry for the 21st century.
And that sounds like a win-win situation.
Yeah, it is, because those are very possible. You know, my mom used to teach me, used to say this thing when I was a kid a lot, and I think about it a lot, and that is, he was a heretic who loved to flout. He drew a circle and drew me out. But love and I had the wit to win, for we drew a circle and drew him in. And I think that in a way, what we're doing is we're drawing everybody in to a real relationship. Don't get me wrong. Legible is here to do very well in revenue, and we will do very well in revenue. We're not here. We're here to make value for our shareholders and much, much more, believe me. But we believe that we can do it with good relationships and in an equitable way that not only gives our readers an opportunity to encounter a company that is really working very hard to give them a delightful working experience, a reading experience, but do it in a way that we're living to the values that everybody kind of knows are important in the 21st century anyways. And we're going to do it with good relationships with the publishers, who are the ones that are producing the content that we're selling in the first place. We want to empower them. We think that that is a win-win-win situation for everybody involved.
So you are also, I mean, so you're working with publishers, but you yourself are also a publisher.
Yes, we are. Exactly. We are also a publisher. So that's another differentiator. I only wanted to provide 4 at the top of this call, but I could provide many, many more. One of the other differentiators about that is when you think of like Kindle, for instance, and I don't mean to, you know, we're not in the, I don't want to compare myself to Kindle, because it's like, as I said, Netflix comparing itself to Blockbuster, same industry, but different things.
Right.
Anyways, but when you look at a platform like Kindle, you know, you can upload your books there, but they're not going to make them for you. Legible differentiates itself even further because the people that made the company itself are decades-long experts in the making of ebooks. And in the case of myself, I ran a company for 10 years that provided the majority of content in Canadian publishing as digital books.
And you're also an author.
And I'm also an author as well. Exactly. In 2014 of a book called An Altar in the Wilderness, which in the first month of Legible being available was the best-selling book in Legible.
That's amazing.
I know, exactly. Every member of my employees bought that book. Can you imagine? Anyways, oh, well. So I am an author as well. And we are, you know, we take, like, all of that went into it. It's like, we want to make sure that authors have a great place to go and make sure that they're going to get a beautiful book made, because the digital version of anybody's book, Tim, the truth is going to last much, much longer than the physical book. Yep. For 2 reasons. First, you print 1,000 copies of a book. That's like the average print run of any newly published book. And You're going to, you'll have, 500 of them in boxes for years, and eventually they'll be sold out, and that's it. No one can get a copy again. A digital version, that's going to stay on the internet. It's going to be available for sale on Legible for years and years and years to come. And it will never degrade. So putting time and energy into a digital book matters. And I wanted our company to also not only earn revenue this way, and I'll talk about those revenue numbers in a second, by the way, because I think that's important to bring up here and why we're doing it from a revenue perspective. But we also wanted to make sure that people could have books produced that are beautiful and that will work for years to come, and also that they could include the latest in what's possible for book entertainment in the 21st century and on Legible. But if I could just, since you brought it up, I think it's important to share the business logic, if I may, behind the vertical that we introduced, publishing books as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I'll point out is that the ebook conversion and development industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry yearly. There are roughly between 1 and 3 million ebooks produced every year. And there are very few companies that are positioned to be able to capitalize on that kind of scale. Legible is able to scale its conversion services. And as a result of that, we know from our experience and background that we can capture right out the gate a large percentage of that market, and that we believe that we can drive six-figure sales over several years into the company through that vertical. In addition to that, we know, and here's another aspect of our business logic behind it, there are 31 million ebooks in the world, roughly. And in the summer of 2025, all 31 million of those ebooks are going to need to be remediated for accessibility to people with reading disabilities and challenges. And that is by law, according to the European Parliament. So if you're a publisher and you want to continue selling books, you have a ticking time clock to convert your entire catalog so that they're accessible to the print disabled community. Now, of those 31 million books, only 29 million, or sorry, only 2 million of those books are already accessible. That means between now and 2025, 29 million books will have to be converted by somebody somewhere in order to be sold in Europe in 2025. And Legible is uniquely positioned to do that. And I could go into much more detail there as well. And then I'll say this in conclusion on this, the business logic behind this. The way that Legible is approaching this is the same way that Netflix approached its platform. Certainly, we'll have a platform with all the books people could want to read and access. But every time somebody accesses that book or purchases it, we have to pay 60% out to the publisher. However, books that we produce, we don't have to put out nearly as much about that. We are only covering our own production costs, which means that our margin on those books is 90% instead of 40%. So by publishing our own content and by making sure that we're publishing next generation content and content that is produced by best-selling authors already, we know that we can capture more of that revenue share, a more margin on our books, and increase our revenues on the other side as well.
It sounds like a perfectly logical plan to me.
Thank you, Tim. We're working it and we're doing it. We did all the research ahead of launching that vertical with the platform, and all indications were that this would put the company in an even better position as we begin to pick up and move forward in a public facing way over the course of this coming year.
So you've got what about, you know, say you've got somebody that's got an idea for a book, or maybe is trying to put together a book, but I guess needs some assistance. You guys provide ghostwriters or anything like that for?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we have the contacts to be able to produce all of that, and to be able to work out those contracts with others. And that's actually a standard order of business. It happens all the time. We're very accustomed to it. We're very comfortable with anybody coming to us and saying, of any magnitude. We work with celebrity authors and high impact authors and high net worth authors as well. And coming to us and saying, I have a book idea in mind. I'd love you to be able to produce it. We have no problem sourcing them with several different ghostwriters and options that they can work with. And then we have no problem guiding them through the process of not only editing, we have our own editors in-house. We also have our own developers and designer, and we can handle any kind of book project like that as well. So ghostwriters are people that we can access and already have connections with already.
So, I mean, I think what makes this kind of special is the fact that you do, I mean, you come from that world. And like you said, a majority of the people that are in the firm also come from that world. And you are connected very deeply in that world, right?
And very, very deeply in that world. I love this world, the publishing world. It's a challenging place. And like any industry is, once you get to know it, honestly. And it has its own animal in the forest. And I love it. Yeah, I'm very connected in it, and globally as well. I also sit as an advisor in the W3C's digital publishing consortium, and you know, I've been big part of the W3C for many years in advisory capacity and supportive capacity and much more. So I love the industry, and I'm very well connected within it, and continue to be. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the opportunity to, like I said, to reinvigorate the beauty of reading somebody else's story, right? I mean, that I think that is probably dwindling to, you know, games and all this other stuff, right? But I think once the younger generation really gets caught up in a good story and lets, you know, you let your imagination go wild. I mean,
oh yeah,
right?
Well, you know, it's interesting because there is always going to be books. You know, we might have tech downturns and energy downturns and upturns and all those things, but books are always going to be needed. And no matter where you are, you're going to want to have access to books, even if you're not reading them. And I would also say audiobooks are really important. And I just want to take this maybe out of the realm of business for a second and just share something from the heart, if I may, on this topic. So I've been thinking a lot about the topic of our kids reading these days, and should they read, and how they should read, and all of that. I've been thinking a long time about this, and you know, I believe that kids and young people read possibly more than they ever used to read today. The difference is they're reading it in more places than just books. They're reading social media. They're reading articles posted on social media. They're reading, you know, blog posts. They're reading, you know, many different things. They're constantly ingesting news. They're reading news all the time. Emails. They're reading a lot already. And one of the reasons that they haven't necessarily accessed book culture, or feel like book culture is further from them a little bit, is that it's been just too difficult to access it from their perspective. Why should they go, oh, you mean you want me to read books, but I have to go buy another device and get the thing and get an account and do it here? And anyways, that's just who bothers. And anyways, most of the world isn't able to do that anyways. So people are reading a lot anyways. Kids are always thinking about books, but there's something really special that's become available recently in a way that was never really available before, and that is audiobooks. And audiobooks are so powerful because they are an even more ancient way for people to hear stories. Reading is something that is an acquired taste that humanity acquired when we acquired mass publication. Before that, reading was not something people did naturally. Instead, you heard stories orally all the time. And there is nothing more powerful than having a story read to you, whether as a child or as an adult. It's primal. It's as primal to the human being as sitting by a fire or eating a meal with other humans. It's deep. So audiobooks bring that spatial embrace of stories to people in a mass market way. And in a way that's sometimes more accessible to them than sitting down quietly in an undistracted way and reading through a book, paragraph by paragraph, page by page. Not to say that that isn't a critical discipline and experience that I want everybody to have. And we haven't chatted about literacy yet and how important that is and what Legible can bring to literacy. But literacy is key. Being able to do that is so important, but it's not mutually exclusive to audiobooks. And so to bring it back to Legible, we're going to be the only platform, the first platform, to have ebooks, places that you can dive in and read and explore and share with others in such an accessible way on the platform. But you're also able to access the audio version of that book at any point. In other words, the ebook and the audiobook are fully integrated with each other. And so that you can go back and forth so that we're not privileging one over another and we're not siloing ebooks from audiobooks. No, why not for the first time, let somebody have the contemplative experience of reading a book and the primal experience of listening to it at the same time and in the same place. That's the goal of our technology and platform on that front.
And viewing it.
What's that?
Visually viewing it as well.
And viewing it with our living books, people will be able to view it. And that's one of the reasons why Toronto Metrolinx reached out to us, because they have a goal that they want their riders to be able to watch, listen, and read on transit. And with Legible, they can do all three at the same time.
And that's the beauty of it. I mean, you're hitting all of the different hot buttons. Maybe for somebody it is sitting down and just reading it and having that, that tune out time. And then maybe there's those that want to actually have those visual. I mean, you're attacking it all, right? You're reading, your audio, and your visual. I mean, to me, that is a win-win-win. Again, there's a lot of win-wins going on here, Kalleg.
I know, but you know what? In our world, mostly what we hear about are loses and challenges and tough topics. But guess what? Winning and having win-win-win scenarios also exist in the world at a fairly high degree. So yeah, we should promote those as much as we can.
Yep, absolutely. So look, let's talk about quickly let's talk about, because we could probably talk for the next 3 hours. I don't know that we would keep everybody's attention, but
there's that.
Let's talk about the potential for revenues, right? And where you're positioned now in terms of, you're a new startup or a new publicly traded company for the most part.
Yeah.
And, there will be concerns about, how much cash burn do they have? And are they going to need to raise capital and dilute shareholders and all of that stuff? So let's talk first. Do you happen to know how many shares fully diluted you have outstanding?
Absolutely. I know how many shares we have fully diluted. We have 70 million shares issued and outstanding.
Okay.
116 million fully diluted shares in the company as well. And that gives us a market cap Just, I think, what is it, $12 million, 14 million.
Okay. So you're not overly bloated with outstanding shares,
Absolutely not.
which is a good thing to hear.
Yeah.
You are right now, the stock is trading. Now, this is on, I have the chart up, but this is off of the Canadian exchange.
Yeah.
And the ticker symbol is READCN. Now, there is an OTC symbol. I had a little bit of a difficult time finding it, but it is LEGBF on the OTC exchange. So it is there. I just could not find a chart for it. So that's why we're using this Canadian chart. So it looks to me like you are building quite a base right around 10 cents. And I usually call that the platform, the launching platform in which to launch from, right?
Yeah.
So the wider the base, the higher the space is
right.
the saying.
That's a really
So
good thing, actually. I like
if
that.
you just continue to build the, on this, in this range, you're establishing some tremendous support. Now, you've talked about the fact that you do have catalysts coming up. You've got the book so let me ask you, just on the book with the popping head, if you sell, I don't know, 10,000 books, what does that mean to Legible?
We sell 10,000 books. It's about $150,000 in revenue just from that one book and in that one sale.
And that wouldn't be, I mean, some of these books I think sell millions of copies, right?
Well, to put it, yeah, as a matter of fact. So the author whose book we're selling sold 14 million copies of his last book.
Okay, 14 million copies. That's a much bigger number than Kalleg.
Yes, it is. I know. Well, you said 10,000, so I answered the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
now I should put a proviso: 14 million copies of his last book over 7 years.
Right, over 7 years,
Right.
And that's one book.
That's
how
one
many
book.
did you say you had?
We are publishing his next 8.
Oh, no. That's his next 8. But I'm saying, how many books are available on Legible?
2 million.
2 million books.
Yeah.
And do you have a subscription model?
Yeah.
Right.
We are bringing out a subscription model. Yeah, it's called Legible Unbound. Go on.
Okay. And that's coming. And that is reoccurring revenue.
That's right. So to put that into perspective, we know on our subscription, on our business model, and I'm glad you brought that up because I don't think I articulated this when I was articulating it before. So on our business model, we are a subscription service. Legible Unbound subscription is going to cost $9.99 every month for access to all of our books. It will be $14.99 every month for access to our books and our audiobooks. So for every 100,000 subscribers, we anticipate $1 to $1.5 million in monthly recurring revenue.
And when does Legible Unbound, when is that looking to be revealed to the world?
Well, we are revealing that to the world as soon as we possibly can, because we are a subscription service, and so we need to release that as soon as possible. But we're targeting either the end of this quarter or the beginning of the next quarter for that release.
Okay. So right now, if people go to legible.com, what is it that they can do? They sign up as a...
Well, you can go to legible.com right now and sign up. Then you add your credit card, and you can explore the 2 million books that we have. You find a book, you can add books to your library, fill up your library. You can go to your library and start to organize into bookshelves all the books that you've added to your library, so you can organize everything. And then you can buy a book, and you can and it will be that's automatically added to your library. and you can read it, explore it, share it, and you basically have access to everything in the library at that point.
Okay. So for right now, the site is all about going there, and if I want a book, I have to buy the book. That's
right.
where you're at right now.
That's right.
But we're coming up on the subscription service.
We're coming up on the subscription service, which is really, really where we know the magic is going to happen for us, because that's what we came to do, Tim, is to be a subscription service. It's really what our generation wants, and it's where the generations that we're working for want. And we won't find our total market fit until we are a subscription service first and foremost.
Okay. But that isn't holding you back from publishing this book. That's going to happen regardless, right?
That's happening anyways. That's right.
Okay.
And not only that, but as I mentioned, in terms of going to market, we'll be in the faces of 7 million people in a month for 3 years. And we are expecting, significant returns on that as well. So we know that our market fit and our development and share are coming right now. Like, we're just in that moment, that inflection moment, where we're just, when I signed that contract with Toronto Metrolinx, I had to sit down and just look out on my street for a bit and just take in, because that really made us. That was a moment, a milestone for us. We'd not only surpassed milestones like getting 2 million books and releasing the platform and much more, and having it available in 4 countries, but being able to say that we are the ebook partner, official ebook partner for Toronto. That's a moment and a cool thing, and that in itself is going to really drive it for us. And that's why we want to bring out our subscription service as soon as possible into that market, because that's where we think we're going to get the most return for us in the company. But having said that, even without the subscription service, our revenue numbers are going to be, we're working very hard for our revenue numbers, both in that book and also in sales on the platform as well in the Toronto metropolitan area. So
what can I ask you what the holdup is on coming out with the subscriber service? What is the holdup right now?
The holdup, it's actually not on our side. In fact, the holdup is actually on the side. So we are a little bit held up on our subscription service. That's true. And that has to do with the publishers that we're working with and the contracts. You need a special contract for the subscription service. And the other holdup is audiobooks. We wanted to make sure that audiobooks were available at the same time as ebooks in our subscription service. And implementing audiobooks into the platform had to happen first. And so we're on the cusp of being able to offer audiobooks. And when we do, we'll have ebooks at the same time, and we'll have both. We'll have a subscription at the same time. So the delay, honestly, is working with the publishers and getting those contracts sorted out so we can include their books in a subscription service, so that people can have the most books in their service. And that included the audiobook component of our subscription offering.
Okay.
But we're very, very, very focused on subscription, getting subscription out. And that's because we know that that's the real purpose and revenue ticket for the company. So the faster we internally can get that done and out, the better that will be for us.
And I agree with that, because, and especially if you're going to be doing this Toronto rollout, right? I mean, I would be pressing so hard to have that done at the time that you're doing this rollout in Toronto, because you get people to get that first look at Legible, and you want them to see that subscription option.
Yeah, right? we know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, deeply. Do we ever want them to have that subscription option? Because that's going to be the best. Yeah, that's going to be the best. But we're going to do the best we can. We're a resilient management team with a real focus on keeping our focus on the key things that will drive revenue in the company, and specifically and only that. And those 3 things: the Harv's book, the Toronto rollout, and our subscription service with audiobooks. That's going to do it.
I just think about, I grew up on comic books. One of my best investments ever was Marvel Enterprises when they were coming out of bankruptcy.
Wow.
I bought them at $1 a share.
Wow.
And that was one of my first big hits as an investor. And, I grew up on them, and I thought they had just come out with the Spider-Man movie, and they had sold the rights to Sony, but they still own the merchandising rights.
Yeah.
I remember walking into Walmart, and I looked down the cereal aisle, and Spider-Man was on every stinking cereal box. And then that piqued my interest. I started walking all around the Walmart, and I was looking at lunch boxes and vitamins and t-shirts and toys and bicycles and bedding, and all this stuff had Spider-Man everywhere, all over the place. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, these guys are printing money.
Yeah.
All they're doing is going out to the mailbox, and they're opening a mailbox, and they're pulling out that check for the royalties, right?
Yeah.
And I look at what you're doing here, and comic books, NFTs, all of these things, the collectibles, I see a lot of synergies there with you guys, a lot of opportunity there, right? To make books cool again, right? Or make them great again. I don't know. I better be careful, but I do see a lot of opportunity to really, make some excitement, make some noise in this industry, right? And I think you're the guy to do it, Kaleeg. I really do.
Thanks, Tim. I'm here to do it. I'm here to do it, and I'm just. It's been a lot to drive it to this point, and there's no stopping us. We're on a purpose here. I saw the vision of what's possible and how reading, giving access to books to people who haven't had access, changed lives. And I want to create something that lives and breathes in this world, that changes people's lives for the better, but also that benefits the people that are involved in it as well. Recently, somebody asked me why we went on the public markets to begin with. And one of the reasons, just one, that I mentioned was, Legible is something that I believe is meant for the world. And I believe that it's meant to be owned by the world. So it's in the public sphere. And, my hope is, and what I'm working for, is that it will be a company that continues, because it already continues to change lives and continue and provide opportunities, but continues to actually benefit those who are participating in it and are owners of it as well.
I think that as people become more and more familiar with your story, I can just think that there's got to be, some celebrity profiles out there that would just latch onto this, because let's talk about the literacy issues that we have, right?
Yeah. We have major literacy issues in the world, and it has an impact on our world in ways that we don't necessarily see or understand. When girls and boys can't read and have no access to reading, this has a profound impact, quite apart from the impact it has on their lives. It has an impact on the local economy, and it has an impact on the academic systems. It has an impact on the innovation of that country and the culture of that country as well. So here's an example. There is a person that worked for our company because she was inspired by the impact that it could have in driving literacy and knowledge into communities that have never really had it before, right? Because all these communities need, again, is a browser, and they can access our books. So, and the reason was because she said, when I grew up in a neighborhood in Miami, I never thought I could be anything. And then this guy came in, and he looked pretty well dressed, she said, and nice. And he said, I She said, what do you do? And he said, I'm an engineer. And she said, I didn't know that people who looked like us and had the same skin color as us could even be engineers. And he said, you need to read some books. Let me get you some books. So he got her some books, and she went on and became an engineer. And years after that, she found us, started chatting with us, and she decided she wanted to try to reverse engineer many other things for the company. She was just inspired by the literacy drive of the company, which is why she came to work with us. So the impact that access to books can have on communities and human beings is immeasurable. And it's also global. So suddenly when you have young girls learning to read and have access to books, say through a company like Legible, they're able to participate in the economy in ways that they weren't able to before. They're able to contain the stories and address issues in their culture that they weren't able to before. There's so much that can happen in a transformative way, all the way down the river from that one person having more access to those books. And more than that, in another direction, there's a sense of literacy that other countries and parts of the world need to have about areas that we don't necessarily know about. Like, what impact could, say, if I had access to, I don't know, the knowledge of the Aleut people of the last 15,000 years, and I could just access it like I can through Legible, just by searching for it and opening it up right in my screen. What kind of wisdom would I get from them? What kind of wisdom would I get from any culture that hasn't had access to publishing and to whom we haven't had access to them? And that's a further literacy that can also change the world as well. So really, what people don't really realize and haven't realized is the power of a reading system to change human lives. And it's been, even though it's something that we've seen again and again in history, Gutenberg Press is one famous example. What happened when one person invented a reading system that could mass produce, books? Well, we know how that changed the world. So when reading systems really do change the world, and this is one of them that I believe will actually, and why I said at the very top of this call that legible.com is an online bookstore with a SaaS business model that we think will unlock new markets worth billions of dollars, sure. But we also think it will change the world in the markets that it goes into as well.
I agree with you, Kalleg. Listen, so this is what I recommend to everybody. If you may not want to buy the stock here at 10 cents, right? I kind of look at it like this. I don't tell anybody what to buy. That's not what I do. I just present the opportunity. We present the facts and share the story, right? Get a feel for the person that is leading the charge. I think you can tell that Kalleg is very passionate about this. And I think that this story is just beginning. That's my belief. And, to maybe dip your toe here at the 10-cent level probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I mean, what's your risk reward, right? You did at one time, it does look as though the stock was already up to $1.25, right? So at 10 cents, can it go back to $1.25? Probably. And that's a pretty good return just all by itself. But do I think $1.25 is going to be the max as to where this baby can go? I don't think so. I think if you have patience and you understand the story and you pay attention to what's happening, as long as Kalleg does what he says he's going to do. So, right. And that's what it comes down to: execution. You can have the greatest intent in the world. If you can't execute, then you're in trouble. So, you know, I would say put this on your radar. LEGBF. I would imagine that at some time, Kaleeg, you're going to want to go to a senior exchange, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
we're on the. Go
and
ahead.
you want to do that when time is right, right? Not just to do it, but when you have the wind in your sails and, you know, it makes sense to do it because it's expensive to go there. So, but right now, probably thinly traded. What are you averaging on average per day? And
I think we are 270,000 today, if I recall
yeah,
correctly.
that's not bad. That's on the Canadian.
225,000.
That's on the Canadian though,
That's
right?
on the Canadian.
That's not on
That's right.
on the OTC. I'm sure the OTC is very, very thin.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? When I look at this is one of these, what did I call it earlier? The Kindle killer. You don't find Kindle killers. You find them early, right? You find them early, and you have the patience to wait it out. And you know, this becomes one of those home run stories, like Marvel was when they got bought out by Disney for $55 a share.
Yeah.
Right?
It's amazing.
And
Yeah.
that was a hell of a ride. And
Yeah.
I think you're gonna, you know, I think you're gonna have comic book companies coming to you for those living books, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you want living comics? I mean, there's all kinds of opportunity here. So, Kaleeg, this is what I want to do. I think we've covered things pretty well, right? Let's keep in touch, and then as things, you know, as you hit some milestones, let's have you back, and we'll do an update for everybody.
You bet. You bet. I'd love to. I really just appreciate the opportunity to be here and chat with you, Tim. It's a real pleasure.
All right. So listen, if you want to become a member of Legible, you go to www.legible.com, right? And you can sign up and create your own account now, so you can start building your library or your wish library or whatever you want to do, right? And if you're an investor, you can go to investors@legible.com. And Kaleeg and I have had a discussion already. They're going to eventually have an investor alert service, but at least you can go there now, and there is a place to sign up to get in touch with investor relations. So
that's right.
All right. Kaleeg, thank you so much again for doing this. You feel like as though I missed anything?
No, I think we covered all the basics, and we left room for another discussion too, Tim. So perfect.
Okay, I'm going to cut this off. I look forward to having you back for the follow-up. Hey there, all you stock market junkies. Thanks for tuning in to yet another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Trading. Today we had Legible, ticker symbol LEGBF. Kaleeg Hainsworth, CEO. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. How about giving us a share? And while you're at it, why not give us a follow? Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.